Do you have an independent mind? If so, I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click on the subscribe button, ring that little bell, and stay up to date with my daily content. Thank you. There are many lessons and legacies that come from the death of George Floyd. I say the death of George Floyd. Actually, today is the day that I can say from the murder of George Floyd. And the most obvious of them is a rejection of police brutality. Another, I think, deep-seated legacy from this case, from this trial, is the willingness of police officers to cross that line and to speak out against one another. This case, in my opinion, really was swung by the testimony of several police officers in Minneapolis from that department willing to criticize one of their own. The rejection of police brutality based on that testimony is a very significant aspect of what just unfolded. Additionally, it's the case of the camera. And when I say it's the case of the camera, of course I'm referring to Darnella Frazier. Darnella Frazier is the 17-year-old who recorded the incident. Darnella Frazier is the subject of analysis today, both in the Washington Post and the New York Times. In the Washington Post, Margaret Sullivan reminds us of this. On May 25th, while taking her younger cousin on a stroll to get a snack, the high school student observed a struggle between a black man and a white police officer. After ushering the child into the convenience store, Cup Foods, Frazier stayed on the sidewalk and started recording. We've seen the images of her there on the scene in her loose-fitting blue pants, her hoodie and her flip-flops, eventually joined again by her little cousin in a mint green shirt that read "Love." Frazier just stood there resolutely, holding her phone. Later, she posted a video clip of about 10 minutes to Facebook. That video clip, now seen millions of times around the world, was a powerful, irrefutable act of bearing witness. The video, showing 9 minutes and 29 seconds of Floyd gasping and ultimately drawing his last breath under Chauvin's knee, was something that couldn't be explained away. Well, Margaret Sullivan, of course, is right in that recap, but Ozzy Pybara in the New York Times reminds us of something else. And it's that the fact was the initial news release that was posted on the police department's website was titled, "Man Dies After Medical Incident During Police Interaction." And it said, this is the very first release that was put out by the Minneapolis PD. It said that Mr. Floyd, who was not identified by name, physically resisted officers on the scene who had ordered him out of his vehicle. Officers were able to get the suspect into handcuffs, noted that he appeared to be suffering medical distress. The officers called for an ambulance. Mr. Floyd was taken to the Hennepin County Medical Center where he died. And then, in a separate one-sentence paragraph, the department said, "At no time were weapons of any type used by anyone involved in the incident." But for Darnella Frazier's video and the other videos, this case would not have ended the way that it did. So that's legacy number one pertaining to a camera. But I think there's one that's equally important. I'm hopeful that this trial may have swayed people's opinions once and for all on the propriety of cameras in the courtroom. And I've long felt this way, and I've addressed this many times on radio and on television. The O.J. trial in 1995 was a major setback to cameras in the courtroom. From Judge Ito to Johnny Cochran to Robert Kardashian, F. Lee Bailey, even Marcia Clark. I mean, when Marcia Clark had a new hairstyle, it was a dominant theme of the coverage of that day's O.J. Simpson trial. It was big on personality. It was a total Hollywood production. I remember at the time I was practicing law, rushing home, watching, the last 2 hours of the trial because of the time difference between Philadelphia and California. Such was my intense interest in the O.J. Simpson trial. My recollection, by the way, is that the O.J. Simpson trial was then, may still be, the longest-running criminal trial in the history of California. And that was because of how cameras influenced the process. In the O.J. case, it was out of control. Everybody, including the judge, played to the cameras. The litigants and the judge in the O.J. case, they didn't want it to end. I'm a civil litigator. I'm not a criminal attorney, but what I saw in the OJ case bore no resemblance to courtrooms in which I've appeared. And I had always hoped there would be another case that would set the public straight. And I'm hoping that it's this. My view is simple. You've got a right to walk into your local county courthouse, sit down and watch a civil trial, or watch a criminal trial, or go into a local federal courthouse, or go into the Supreme Court of the United States, pull up a chair and watch what's going on. It's the ultimate instance of sunshine providing a disinfectant. And even though you can't be present in all of those courtrooms, a camera certainly can be. This trial proved that it doesn't have to lead to showboating. I credit Judge Peter Cahill of the Hennepin County Court in this instance. I credit that large prosecution team. I credit Eric Nelson. I credit everybody, the witnesses who testified. They all proved that cameras have a place in courtrooms. And you know, maybe it's a Minnesota thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a Minnesota versus Hollywood thing. But I think what we just saw in Minnesota can take place all across the country. I'm reminded of the fact that Senator Arlen Specter, who was a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Pennsylvania's longest-serving U.S. senator, was a longtime advocate of cameras in the courtroom. And Senator Specter, when he was on the Judiciary Committee, including when he was chair of the Judiciary Committee, would always make it a point to question prospective Supreme Court justices, meaning Supreme Court nominees. How do they feel about cameras in the courtroom? And my recollection is that almost to a person, meaning all of them, he'd get them on record saying that they thought it was a noble idea and something that ought to be pursued. But of course, the moment they were then confirmed and got on the Supreme Court of the United States and were now wearing a black robe, they had a change of heart because they didn't want the public looking over their shoulder. It's a good thing for the criminal justice system. It's a good thing for all of us that 17-year-old Darnell Frazier had a camera and recorded what happened to George Floyd. And the Chauvin case is confirmation that Senator Specter was right. There should be cameras in all American courtrooms.